Hello and welcome to Moral Lit Literary Deep Dives and Discussions with me, A.L. Lisske, and my husband, Zach. So today we are going to go on a fun topic about dreams. Dreams are a huge premise of the Lattice Games series, specifically investigations using dreams, what is called the dreamscape, or the more official term, the dream state. You'll see those interchangeably throughout the series. But this comes from page 114 in the book, where Granger's talking to Azure, just kind of introducing her to some things. He says, "Dreams are fragile hallucinations that connect us to the deepest desires and intents of the mind. They can drive some people mad while inspiring others to create great works of art, music, science, and more. Being within the subconscious of another offers an opportunity to manipulate that person in some way." So that's kind of ish along the lines of what we're going to talk about, mostly just why exactly dreams matter and why I chose to use dreams in the series. So, for myself, I've had a series of recurrent dreams since I was young at different seasons of my life, and they've been pretty vivid. A good majority of them have been written into the Lattice Scheme throughout the first and second books, the second which I am working on right now. But these vivid dreams have always intrigued me because some of them are very meaningful, others are just pure nonsense as far as I've always known, and some of them just tell me different things about myself. So we're going to be discussing, dream theories today, why dreams could matter, why they might not matter. Everyone has different types of dreams, but I'm going to talk about some of the scientific theories that I utilized while writing the Lattice Scheme, and we can kind of look at how our dreams are affected by these things. The first one is emotional regulation theory. So in this theory, dreams help us process and cope with emotions, especially negative ones, by detaching the emotion from the memory of the event. The brain's amygdala and hippocampus are active during dreams, suggesting a role in the emotional processing and memory consolidation. So I use this specifically in the Lattice Scheme in a series of dreams by Alma Morales when she's being chased and essentially killed by various different things. Her emotion is being detached from whatever it is that is after her, and she's processing them to the point that she becomes used to it, almost expectant of it, complacent even, which concerns Azure greatly. I was always intrigued by that theory, the negative implications of that, because so many of us who have recurring dreams have negative connotations in them, negative emotions. Certain fears will come back to get us, certain anxieties. I think anxiety is one of the biggest ones. Have you ever had any dreams like that, Zach?
I think so. One thing that comes to mind is I had a lot of reoccurring dreams growing up. I don't have very many reoccurring dreams, and actually I have less and less dreams as I become an adult. A lot of my reoccurring dreams had to do with, if I look at it from like a deeper, more underlying reasoning, I think a lot of it comes down from like embarrassment, and because I think a lot of my reoccurring dreams had to do with school, not knowing where to go, and being really embarrassed to being late for school, as well as going to school in some sort of inappropriate attire, such as just not wearing enough clothing or wearing something ridiculous. And I think a lot of that anxiety comes down from, I don't know, just as a kid I was very insecure, and I think there was a lot of things that I didn't like about school in general. But I think a lot of that came out of my dreams just from me being a shy kid and not knowing how to conduct myself the way that I felt like other kids could conduct themselves more evenly or properly. And I think that's probably where that comes down to. If I do have dreams, on occasion, it will be kind of the same thing. A lot of the times, most of my recurring dreams are me in school, or, mostly just school. And I can't find the right classroom, or I show up to school and I know that I'm an adult that's already graduated and I feel out of place. That's another one that I've had semi-frequently, not any more than like once a month if I'm going to compare a frequency to it versus every other week or more than a couple times a week when I was a kid.
School is a huge thing. I didn't put any school dreams in the first book of the Unseen Operative series. In the second book that I'm currently writing, there are those school dreams where there is that anxiety of things going on. But I like that you talk about these anxieties, these negative connotations that you had with school. and you've attached meaning to it, to the dream. So sometimes, like, we have a tendency to do that with our dreams. We like to interpret things that happen again and again. Does it necessarily mean that there is something in that dream that we are afraid of? Not necessarily. For Zach, yes, school anxiety, that makes sense. I have a different example, though, that this one has been happening ever since I graduated. Never had this in school. I didn't have fear of school. I love school. School was like my peanut butter and jelly. Like, I wanted to be there every day. It was my escape from home. It was just a fantastic place. So I was in the marching band. I was a section leader. I joined marching band as a sophomore. So it was weird because when I became a junior, I became a section leader, having only done marching band 1 year. And that carried out until my senior year graduation. So I only missed 1 year of marching band in the 4 years of high school. In my recurring dream, I'm in my senior year, and for some reason, I don't even know how or why, I missed summer marching and I missed band camp. And anybody who knows marching band knows you cannot miss band camp. I mean, you can. I did it my first year. I didn't go to band camp, and I joined when school started. And, I picked it all up and I was totally fine. It wasn't a big deal. You can't miss band camp if you're a section leader. So obviously in this dream, as a senior, I had given up my position as a section leader. Now, that kind of hurt me in my dream because I really loved the girls that I worked with. It was a big deal to me to take care of them and to teach them and to nurture them. So that was panic number 1. But panic number 2 was my teacher, my band director, would not let me join for some reason because I missed summer and band camp. And so I have these dreams just about like every other week. I have this dream, and it just... the anxiety and the fear and the distress in me as I'm trying to convince him all the way up until state marching competition. Like, I follow them there, just telling him, like, please let me join. And he says, there's no way you can learn this now. And he even gives me a chance to try, and I can't do any of it. I don't know where any of that fear comes from. Makes no sense to me, because by the time I was graduating, I was ready to leave band. Not because I hated it. I was, it was fun. It was great. I was done. I didn't get overtly attached like my dream suggests that I do. So that was an amplified negative emotion. I think a lot of dreams do tend to amplify the negative emotions, the anxieties that we may not even have. So there's one thought, but that is something that I use in the series specifically for Alma Morales. Another theory, activation synthesis theory. So this one suggests that the brain attempts to make sense of random electrical signals generated during REM sleep. According to this view, dreams don't have special hidden meaning, but are a byproduct of brain activity. So essentially random perception, images just ping, ping, pinging all the time. In my first book, I kind of use this for Hastings when he's recovering from his drug dependence. And Azure goes in and he's having these erotic, just crazy, violent, flashy colored dreams that are supposed to be depicting a drug withdrawal. They're just completely random, make no sense. Now, some people do have dreams like that on the regular. Sometimes in the past, my mom has told me some of her dreams, and, a cow will appear all of a sudden, or a duck, and there's a tree falling, and none of it makes any sense. She doesn't have those all the time, but the few that I recall her telling me that were about that, just kind of randomness, fascinate me.
Have you ever heard of aphantasia? Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay, so one of the things that you described was like flashes of colors and things like that. Well, people with aphantasia actually can't see or envision images in their mind.
Oh, wow.
And so this translates into their dreams. And so oftentimes if they have like a vivid dream or a nightmare or something, they have these intense feelings and emotions, but oftentimes what they visualize in their mind in their dreams is more or less like splots of color, splots of emotion that are mixed with that color, and just like almost like a psychedelic visualization rather than exact depicted images. And so it kind of reminded me of that when you were talking about that. But one of the things that
I'm going to use that in my second book now.
I find interesting. Yeah, you should look it up and do more research about aphantasia, I believe is how you say that. But essentially I think it's like 6 to 12% of the population has it, and they don't even realize it. Dang. Because people don't talk too much about being able to visualize. So if you tell someone to think or visualize biting into an apple, they can't. There's only so many senses that they can visualize in their mind when they're thinking of that thing, and usually it's mostly just emotion rather than just like a vivid visual stimulus. So in my mind, I can visualize eating the apple. I can hear the crunch. I can taste the flavor. A lot of that stuff is lost with aphantasia. And actually, there is some small correlation that some researchers have tried to put together, that aphantasia and dementia, like early onset dementia and stuff like that. But it's just an interesting thing to look up. You might want to look into.
Honestly, yeah, I still got 10 chapters to go on the second book, so I'm going to put that in.
But that's just what kind of came to mind. You know, I've had plenty of dreams where it makes no sense. Plenty of times where, I mean, I am such a intense sleeper. I move around and shuffle around and flail my arms.
He dances.
I'm just like active in my sleep. And you could easily convince me that those are my neurons just firing off like crazy. And so while I'm working out, while I'm asleep, you know, my brain's just, you know, firing off like crazy because, I don't know, you might be able to chalk it up to symptoms of ADHD or something like that. I don't know. That's just one potential theory that really doesn't hold any weight. But at the end of the day, you know, I could see that a little bit in myself, especially since I don't have quite as many dreams, but I still move around and I'm quite active in the night. And
yeah, neurons firing off actually remind me, there is a sleep condition where certain muscles will twitch, especially right before you're about to fall asleep. It's a residual condition. I don't recall off the top of my head what it's called. I know I have it in my abdomen. Sometimes when I'm about to fall asleep, my stomach will just twitch violently or my shoulder will twitch violently and it wakes me up again. I'm like, whoa, what was that? But my sister used to point it out when we were younger, and it's a funny thing. Full disclosure to everybody listening, we are not experts on anything dream related, body related. I mean, I do have a health science degree and I have done a lot with human development, which is where the majority of the things I'm talking about come from. I'm still learning, which is why Zach can inform me things that I don't know. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, I did not research dreams in depth before writing this book. Most of it is purely based off of experience in my current education. So we're all learning here, right? It's all fun. If you know anything great and fantastic about dreams that you're an expert on or think we should know, definitely pop it in the comments. So moving on with theories, we got memory consolidation theory. I love this one. So dreaming may serve as a cognitive function of strengthening memories and improving recall. The brain could be sorting and discarding unnecessary information during the process. This is the one I use the most throughout the series for the interrogations, is they are trying to tap into that memory consolidation to get some truth out of the subconscious. Sometimes dreams, like I said, sometimes they do have meaning, or you will find a meaning to them. Prime example with me and Zach's relationship. Before we were married, we were dating. I'm a very strong, independent woman. Zach is the first man I've ever agreed to take me on a date. I've refused many others, but I didn't need anybody. I didn't need a boyfriend, didn't need a fiance, didn't need a husband. It was not in my plans. He comes along and things just kind of took off, and there came a point in time when I was contemplating, okay, well, what would life look like if I dumped him versus what would life look like if I end up marrying this guy? And I had this really distinct dream one night that I did end up attaching a lot of meaning to, just because of how distinct it was and how vivid my emotions were in it. It wasn't all negative. It wasn't all positive. It was a completely contemplative dream where I saw him with a group of folks that we all know, well, we mutually knew from our church, hanging out in my driveway at my mom's house in a truck, and he was among them, and I was sitting next to him, and for some reason, he just did not know me. And it hurt me inside, and I was sitting there, and I was thinking, you know, I could live with this. I could live with us not being together, and I would be fine. But it hurts more knowing that you don't know me anymore instead of us going forward. So I woke up from that dream and I thought about it, and I thought, you know, is that how I actually feel? And after a lot of soul searching, I was like, yeah, I guess I would be pretty upset if we broke up, so I better not do that one. So that's just one thing about assigning meanings to dream. Was that a memory, though? No. Some dreams, though, are reflective memories. I've had a couple dreams that were remakes of memories. One such as my sister was once in this lake and she almost drowned. And that was really traumatizing for her. I saw her far off, went in, gave her, one of those floaties, helped her up. So she ended up living, thank goodness. But for some reason, that dream has played a memory repeat over the years for me. So sometimes you'll have dreams that do take memories or times you've been together, short portions even, baking with mom, Christmas cookies might pop up in a dream. You might have a memory of school. Ooh, big one. I can't believe I forgot this one. When I was living in the Philippines, serving a mission for my church, and I lost a bunch of weight, I didn't sleep very well, but when I did sleep, I always had this recurring dream of me sitting in a lesson with my companion across from the same woman, a woman I never really knew, but I had met once. And for some reason in that lesson, I could not speak. And it was an actual memory, but it was on repeat, always in that lesson, every single night that I had a dream for about a year. So it happens.
I don't think I've had any particular dreams, at least not off the top of my head, where I've
compartmentalized.
Yeah, compartmentalized.
English is hard.
Yeah. I don't feel like I've had a dream where I've really compartmentalized like a memory, but I have had dreams where, for instance, if I fell asleep watching a TV show, I'll have dreams about the TV show.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing.
Thematic.
But I wouldn't say that, yeah, thematic is a good way to put it. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't necessarily say that I've had specific memories turned into dreams as much. I mean, I just don't think that, at least if I've had any, they weren't very memorable. They weren't very...
Your memories are not memorable.
Well, I tend to struggle with my own memory anyways, but that doesn't really occur to me.
Okay, here's the last one. Threat rehearsal. Whew. This one happens a lot. I'd say it's one of the more common ones. Dreams of this theory, they rehearse responses to dangerous or threatening situations in a safe environment, helping us prepare for them in waking life. So as I've mentioned in about every episode, grew up in a house with an abusive father. So I have had several dreams wherein scenarios would play out where he would be there. He wouldn't necessarily even be doing anything, but his presence within the dream, first it pulled out that negative emotion, so emotional regulation there. But then I was always trying to find a way to deal with him being there, how to get him out, how to help whoever else was in the house to get out or away from him, how to calm the tensions. Had that a ton when I was younger. I still have that. And he hasn't been in my life for about 2 years, but I will have dreams randomly where I'll be at my mom's house with Zach, or my mom will be at our house, and for some reason my father is with her, and I always ask her, well, what about my stepdad? And he's at home just this and this, and your father's just here to pick up some stuff or whatever. And she's completely chill with it. And for some reason, I cannot handle that. And so I spend the whole dream just trying to figure out, how am I going to get him away from her? How am I going to get him out? Where can I call the police without him figuring out that I'm doing that, etc. So I'm dealing with that threat constantly. This theory is also one that I use in my second book more frequently than I did in the first, where folks are worried about being caught for something or being accused of something when they're innocent. That can be one too, that even if you've never done something, you might worry that you are. I did have some dreams when I was younger that for some reason a doctor would tell me, you're pregnant, and I'd be like, no way. I've never, I am a virgin. Abstinence is my big thing. I will be completely chaste before marriage, all that stuff. And I wasn't planning on getting married, so it was not going to happen. But I'd still have those dreams, like it was a threat to me. So I had to figure out, how do I convince these people that I never did anything?
I don't think I've dealt with that too much, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, the closest thing I can think of is kind of relating to my first couple of examples of going to school or whatnot. There is one dream that I've always been fascinated by, because it was a very distressing dream, but it never gave me that much distress, I guess is a good way to put it, because the subject of it was very strange and very dark and grim. But so it was me and my grandma were pushing a shopping cart down like a hedge maze, similar to the one in Harry Potter, The Goblet of Fire with the wizard cup, that last hedge maze that they went through on that. So we're basically going through that. It was really creepy, everything. And then just randomly would pull out of the bushes, out of the tall hedges, coffins of our family members and put them in the shopping cart. And my grandma's like, "Oh, there's your grandpa, and put him in here. Oh, there's your dad."
Oh my.
And we're just gleefully taking our family members and their coffins through this little shopping spree. And when I woke up, I was so confused, but I was also like not as distressed as I thought I would be. I don't know why. I don't know if that happened shortly after my first, my grandma on my dad's side passed away. And it was me with my grandma on my mom's side that were going shopping. And I just don't quite understand. I don't think I quite understood what that was all about. I'm not sure if it was me accepting the idea of death or the idea that we can be with our family members after death, per our beliefs, and just other things like that. Just kind of a strange scenario that, I mean, it was a weird dream too, especially weird because that dream happened like during the day. It was like a nap that I took during the day on an uncomfortable chair, and I only slept for like an hour, but...
I'm curious about that. There's some studies that talk about, especially in younger minds, you might overhear a phrase, a sentence, and not even remember it, and it will subconsciously affect your dreams or how you think at night. So I'm curious if whether while you were sleeping during the day or sometime previous to that point, probably, if you had overheard a conversation about, funeral costs, we need to buy a coffin, maybe discussion about coffins and whatnot.
Maybe.
Like that might be a stretch, but I'm not a dream interpreter or anybody, but there are a couple studies on that people will just tie in random phrases and it'll come back to you. I've noticed that in myself. If I hear a certain phrase or, great example. If I see a certain name on Facebook that I haven't seen in a while and I just make a little comment in my mind to myself, oh, hey, I haven't seen that person in a while. And suddenly they pop up in my dream that night. And I'm like, why are you here? Wake up in the morning. Oh, yeah, that's right. I saw that person on Facebook, but it didn't cross my mind. Things got mixed in there just like crazy. Also funny, while you were talking, I had a memory consolidation dream that like I recall having. Is my grandma once told me not to go touch this car fob, this old broken down car thing on her farm when we were younger, because there was a hornet's nest. My sister could see it, my grandma could see it, I could not see it. I tried and tried and tried. I didn't see a hornet's nest. So I went up to it, touched it, got stung. That is what actually happened, and I have had that dream, though it's always been blurred and slightly different, but I've had that dream again. So dreams can be very powerful, kind of like Granger said, in that they can have a very powerful influence on our emotions. Specifically, many folks will have life and death dreams where you wake up and your heart is absolutely pounding. I know that's super common for folks with PSTD or traumas, but even for those who have never had something terrible happen to them or have a mental disorder, illness, or trauma, will sometimes have dreams like that. Or you wake up in a night sweat and you're like, oh my goodness, like that was scary as crap. Or like in the past, I've had dreams where somebody I know who's precious to me will die, and I wake up having this weird sensation all day, or this weird premonition over me that, are they safe? Are they safe? Even though I know they're safe, but that dream just gives me that feeling all day. Same on the flip side. You might have a really fantastic dream. High schoolers, I had a friend who told me this once. She had a dream that the guy she really liked asked her out for prom or something. She was like on cloud 9 all day thinking it was going to happen. It didn't happen, by the way. Super sad. But, dreams can do that. They can make you very happy. They can make you very sad. Your emotions are highly impacted by it. And we as humans, we got this little problem where we let our emotions kind of determine our realities. And that's something I explore in the second book of the Lattice Scheme. That is a huge thing dreams do. And because dreams do that, because dreams have that power, that's kind of what gave me the whole dreamscape premise for the Lattice Scheme series. Is if our subconscious can affect our emotions, which can affect our realities that much, what happens when somebody messes with that? And also, what can we learn from that? Because sometimes we do learn things about ourselves from our dreams. Another example, I've often had dreams. Back when I lived at my mother's house, I would be in my room, which was the entire basement. Just the basement was really small. It was room sized. But I'd be down there and I'd have dreams where suddenly there'd be hundreds of spiders all over the floor, or there'd be hundreds of rats, or my cat would have babies and they would be everywhere. Now, anyone who knows me knows I am not afraid of spiders. I think spiders are the coolest thing ever. Rats, don't care for. I think they were just down there because sometimes we did have mice break in, and that was a problem we dealt with. Baby cats, not so much. Never had that problem, and our cats were all neutered, so wouldn't have happened. But in those dreams, I never had fear. I wasn't scared of these things. I was frustrated at them because I could not see my floor. And I've learned from myself that I am kind of a neat freak. I like things to be clean. I like things to be orderly and have a place. I don't like my room to be a mess. And so when there's all these creatures around all over the place and I can't control them because they're living objects, oh, that's not a good thing. I'm a neat freak. I'm a control freak. That was something my dreams taught me. So while I'm going through the Lattice Game series, what we're kind of doing is we're exploring these different people's subconscious to learn not only about who they are, but how they're involved in these different schemes together, these different cases. In the second book, there's going to be a series of murders, and we need to really figure out who done it or how many people are involved in who done it. And that's going to play around with learning things about those people in their dreams. So that's kind of fun fact about the Lattice Scheme and dreams. Dreams are fascinating things.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that I think I want to touch on just for a little bit is you asked the question, like, what does it look like when we start manipulating people's dreams by like tapping into them? Mm-hmm. I would say that that's almost like a form of hypnosis. Mm-hmm. And hypnosis is an interesting practice. It is kind of on an individual basis on whether or not it works for them. But for the most part, it does follow a fairly strict, I guess you could say, curriculum on how it's operated and performed. That it's kind of like tapping into your subconscious, essentially, and being able to help process and overcome certain feelings and certain thoughts and actions. It often can help with PTSD and other things like that from what I know. And so it's the type of thing that I would imagine it would have a similar effect to that. I mean, I can't imagine hypnosis being used in a super negative light because, anybody who does hypnosis therapy is attempting to clear themselves of their distress in one way or another. But it'd be interesting to have, obviously there's bits of information that you're diving to in the subconscious that people probably do divulge kind of in the same thing when you're just dissecting yourself in therapy or having your therapist help you dissect yourself. And so that's what kind of comes to my mind is it would, in some ways you could say that it would be therapeutic if it's done properly. Otherwise it could be distressing because if you're bringing up things in somebody's subconscious that they've either already put in their little box and compartmentalized, consolidated. Yeah, they've taken it and they put it away, and essentially they've come to peace with it. But if you bring it back up, and then they have to rebox it up and put it in their corner, that could be any number of traumatizing. It could be any number amount of influx of emotions that they've already dealt with. It could cause some number of problems, as well as could help them remember something that they didn't think that they had forgotten. Oh my goodness, you brought up so many things right now that are huge in the series. But yes, in reality, hypnosis, number one, it only works if the person is willing. I wasn't huge on psychology, but I did pay attention in psychology class, and my sister, she loves psychology, my brother as well. We had a hypnosis come into our high school every year, and we got to listen to them talk to us, and some folks got to go up and participate. And if you honestly didn't want whatever he was suggesting to happen or to do it, wouldn't happen. That plays part in my book as well, because whenever Azure or Alma tries to suggest something to the subconscious they're in, whenever they interpose is what I call it, when they create an image
or a sound or anything like that, if the dreamer doesn't accept it, it goes away. They have to accept it. They can't do anything against the will of the person. That's massive when it comes to the subconscious, because we ultimately control us. Nobody can control us. But it becomes freaky when we think about, well, what if I don't actually have control and somebody can do something with me in my mind that I don't know about? And so that's the darker side that we're going to explore, is how much of our will actually keeps things from happening in this fictional piece that I'm doing versus the reality where, in truth, we can't be forced to do something against our will unless our will is completely, what's a good word, murked up. Like if you're high on drugs, if you are drunk, your conscience, choosing your decisions, all that, it's jacked up to the point that you're not aware. And that's a very, very different thing from then being hypnotized. Mm-hmm. Because when being hypnotized, you do have that awareness within yourself. So there's a difference there. But we do have to consider, on that dark side, not being fictional, that if you are drugged up and your will is jacked up, probably anybody can convince you to do anything. People do all the time. That's how, rapes happen and kidnapping sometimes. And a lot of, thrillers, suspense novels, crime, not even novels, movies, all that come on the basis of the mind being jacked up on all sorts of things. So that's a huge point to bring up, is the will. Try to remember the last thing that you said. That was, neurons. I do know neurons. That is something that my degree has covered extensively. I know a lot about neurons. So neural pathways, every time that you retrieve a memory, it comes through a neural pathway. We're constantly building these pathways as we learn new things. And if you don't use that memory, if you're not recalling that memory, over time what happens is this pruning where neural cells shut off those pathways and kind of die, so to say. It goes away, disintegrate, gone. Neural cells do not regenerate. So in growing pathways, what we're essentially doing is, it's hard to describe. We're making like a lattice scheme, a lattice in our minds of different pathways using all the neural cells that we have for the useful information. We're constantly retrieving it. If you don't retrieve that pathway, it goes away, the memory is gone. Okay, so that's pruning. It's not necessarily that the neuron per se dies off. But if you're trying to convince somebody of a memory that they don't have, that should be creating a different neural pathway. And every time that you recall a memory, something in that pathway has to change to retain it. That's a curious piece of science. So every memory that you have from when you're little, every time you're remembering that same memory, your brain is tweaking something about it, something that was true into something not as true. So over time, that memory becomes a little bit jacked up. And I've always thought about that and been super alarmed because I'm like, how many false memories do I have? Like, seriously, to everybody listening, look up false memories. It is a fascinating topic. You can form false memories in your head because of that recalling of the pathway if it's a memory that isn't so poignant in your mind. I have one that I've thought for years this was a memory. It probably was a dream. My mom keeps telling me it's a dream, not a memory, where my mom bought me a mermaid Barbie, put it in the bathtub, told me to go find it. It was a surprise. I go there and it's not there. And I could have swore that was a real memory because it's so vivid. And she tells me all the time it's a dream. But every time I think about it, it is different. When I've journaled about it before, and when I read back on there, I'm like, no, that's not exactly how it went. And, things change over time. So anyways, I could go on a rant about false memories, neural recollection, pruning, all of that. Neurons are a fascinating topic when it comes to memories. So super glad you brought that up. That will play part in the second book. It's not in the first book. Science is not for everyone. But it is fun, and everyone's still learning. The science that I learned when I got my degree 5 years ago is not going to be the science that is happening today. Things are being innovated and learning and such on and so forth. So it would be good for me to refresh myself on all these things. Dreams, important. Psychology matters. And as the author of the Lattice Scheme, I really hope that as you're reading through these dreams that you're not hyper-analyzing them, of course, but that you understand that dreams have potential because they affect our subconscious. And ultimately what I'm getting at in this series is ideas matter, memories matter, what's in our head matters, and dreams is a perfect way to go about that. So definitely leave any comments if you have any vivid dreams yourself, have better knowledge than we do. Definitely drop whatever you want in the comments. We hope that you will subscribe and pick up a copy of the Lattice Game on Amazon. And see you next week.